going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is the, we'll call it the prequel to melting down some pistons with nitrous. So I'm trying to figure out why I lost fuel pressure so that it doesn't happen again and ruin some stuff. So I have a Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator that's for boost. The only thing that I can think of is that I don't know if this is for E85 or not. Maybe the diaphragm is bad. I don't know. I'm going to have to dig into that some more. However, we are going to force the fuel pump on, and then we're going to give some air pressure to this line, about 8 or 10 psi, and see if the fuel pressure climbs. If it doesn't, we know that it's probably something with the fuel pressure regulator. So we're going to get into the ECU, we're going to force the output for the fuel pump on, and then we're going to give some air pressure to this line and see what the gauge does inside the car. Let's get it going. So I use Tuner Studio because I've got a Mega Squirt ECU. So each different kind of ECU will have its own software. So this is Tuner Studio, and the really cool thing about it is how adjustable it is. The downfall, as I found out, is that I have an MS2 and all the safety features didn't come out until the MS3. So like being able to monitor your fuel pressure, your oil pressure, and all that stuff, I can't do it with my ECU. All I can do is control the engine. So that part sucks. So we're going to go up here to our CAN bus test modes. We're going to go to the output test mode. So we have an output specifically for the fuel pump. We'll enable our test mode. Let's expand this so you can see what everything is. So here's a fuel pump output, TAC output, and then these are programmable outputs. I use the ALED for my fan, and then I use PT6 and 7 for my nitrous outputs. So we're going to turn on the fuel pump output so that we can see how much fuel pressure we have when we're just running. Basically what you'd see at idle. So we have 58 psi, a little on the high side under idle, but that'll work. That's fine. So now what we're going to do is add some air to that that boost reference line for the fuel pressure regulator and see what that does. So let's do that. Kai, can you watch the fuel pressure gauge and see what that guy does? So right now we've got the fuel pump running, and I'm going to give this about 8 psi and see what it does. So that means my fuel pressure regulator, when we give it a boost reference, is doing nothing. So the diaphragm inside of it is probably toast. I'm not sure what we're going to have to do about that, but we'll end up taking the fuel pressure regulator apart and see what's up with it. Because right now, if I give it a boost reference here, my fuel pressure should shoot up. I mean, it readily, even at 10 pounds of boost, it used to go all the way up to like 80 psi. Okay. So it's working a little bit, but not the way that it should. I did have, so I think I've got this set at like 20 psi of air pressure. So it should jump up to around 80 psi, I think. So in addition to fixing and finding why our fuel pressure issue happened, the engine's coming out today, so I ended up with 7 burned or melted pistons, which is obviously not good. So we're going to take this out and assess the damage and kind of go from there. So we got quite a bit of this torn apart so far. Got the whole accessories are off, the blower's off. We're working on getting the intake off right now, and then we're going to, also we've got the header bolts. So here pretty quick after we get the intake off, we're going to jack the car up, we'll get the motor mounts off, we'll get the trans bolts off, get the clutch off. I'm literally just sending the long block. I'm keeping the flywheel, pressure plate, everything. I'm going to have to take off the harmonic balancer, probably the water pump, timing chain cover. I'll take all that stuff off just so it's a little easier transporting it. Then he doesn't have so much stuff in his shop, and I don't get charged as much for labor taking it apart. Sweet. Put back there.
Oh, you got them all already?
Yeah, my side's done. Been waiting on you. What you been doing?
I was hanging out.
All right, so let's get this intake off. You want to grab that hat? It's not the lightest thing in the world. Let's set this on cardboard. Do you want to... This is crazy. I'm sure you saw that, but... So we got everything... Everything's off. Looks pretty decent. Look at that. 351 life. So this is a standard 351 Windsor block with Cleveland heads, or a cleaver for those who aren't aware. Look at the size of that intake manifold. Look at that thing. This is seriously the most expensive part of this entire build. Is just this crazy intake manifold. Ridiculous. Look how high that is. So before I push this engine too much harder, which is going to be as soon as I get it back together, I should probably get some bolts for the intake manifold that are not just a grade 5 bolt. So these are all just the bolts that were in it from when it got built. So what I'm going to do is get a ARP stud kit if I can, and we'll see what that runs. I'm sure it's not going to be cheap because it's for a Cleveland heads. So I'll look and see what that all entails, but that's something I definitely need to do. I should have already had that, especially running boost and nitrous, just to keep everything together. I need to make sure that I don't have anything crazy going on. So here's something that we found when we were taking this stuff apart. The vacuum line that goes to the bottom of my we'll call it the wastegate, but it's not a wastegate. There was a hole in it right here. You can't really see it too well. There you go.
It was on the bottom.
Yes, it was on the bottom. It's really the blow-off valve, not wastegate, because the wastegate goes on the exhaust of the turbo. But on this guy here, so going to the blow-off valve. So I was getting a boost leak in there too. It's no real big deal because I had a 10-pound spring, so I was only seeing about 10 pounds of boost. That's not a real big deal other than having a vacuum leak there. So that's going to have to get fixed. No big deal. Look at this pile of parts. That's what's up. Everything. There we go. Okay. Time to get Big Bertha out of here. All right.
Transmission.
Yeah, it came right off. All right, go ahead and go up. It just came right out. That's money. Okay, hold on a sec. We're hanging up a little bit on some stuff. That sucks.
BMF 2.0.
You like that?
Maybe 3.0.
Yeah, exactly.
2.5.
I'll have to scratch it out this time.
Put it right from the corner or something.
If you haven't watched my video where I did my my oil pan on this one, this is what we're talking about. BMF 2.0. It's now going to be, I don't know, this is actually like 4.0 because I've had it out a couple times. That's what it is. These are solid drop mounts, and when I use these, the pan was resting on top of the steering rack. And I believe, oh yeah, you can still see the leftover remnants from the first time. You can see where it was resting all over the, now I just screwed it up. Yeah, but right here, you can see all of that, those markings are from where it used to rest, right on top of this here. So I use those spacers because the three-quarter drop mounts just drops the dang thing onto the K-member. So if I had a tubular K-member and I had a manual steering conversion, it'd be better, but it is what it is. If you've watched my first 351 swap tips video, you know what I'm talking about. Actually going to stand like up here out of the way.
What's up?
It's the wrong size.
You got the wrong size again.
There you go. Hold it like that. Now you see how I was telling you that your flywheel looks really good?
Oh
Yeah. You see the difference? You see how heat checked mine is? How it's been slipping? This, folks, is indicative of clutch slippage, which I was 100% sure I had. You can see the... Hold on a sec. I can't monetize my videos with Hell Yeah playing in the background because they've already they already monetized the video.
Where'd you have me put this?
Right there by that giant pile of parts. That's good. So looks like there's more stuff I'm gonna have done. We're gonna have to turn the flywheel and maybe get a new clutch disc and see how the pressure plate looks too. Can you let's look at the pressure plate. So yeah, careful with the, just grab it through here, otherwise we get grease all over it. Yeah, it was slipping pretty good. You can see the gouges on the disc. I thought it looked good from the side just because the pads were good, but you can tell she's slipping. Just gonna send it. You smell that?
Yeah, I do.
That's a straight clutch. Give it a smell. It smells bad.
I heard him smell it.
Dude, that smells like straight up bad clutch. Should probably drain the oil out of it, but Greg, I'm gonna let you drain the oil out of it.
We just need to get coolant again. It's leaking.
Son of a biscuit. Grab some paper towels and shove them in the intake ports. We're so close to getting this shipped off. Paper towels. Well, I told you we were going to shove a borescope in here.
Yeah.
We should do that in a couple of these intake ports. So I was nervous that maybe one of my...
I just do the middle too?
Yeah. I was nervous that maybe one of my intake valves got something on it from, you know, life. Nitrous. So we're going to stick a borescope in and check out the the intake, the back of the valves, and kind of see how that's going.
It's too much freedom.
Too much freedom?
Too much freedom going through it.
There was way too much freedom. I didn't do it like Cletus did. I didn't give it a good fog. I actually had a kit on my car.
A wet shot.
Yeah.
And then take.
So we're looking at some of the pistons a little bit. You can see the cross hatching is still on the cross hatching is still on the cylinder wall. There's some scuff marks like right over here. You can see where it starts, like right there's where the scoring starts a little bit, but for the most part it looks okay. I mean, yeah, it melted a little bit of the piston. You can see that is probably the best shot of the melted piston I've ever got. Hold that up there real close. Yeah, there you go. You see that it's missing piston from there all the way up to there. However, the cylinder walls are not terrible. So we might be able to get away with just honing it and putting new pistons in. We'll see. Oh yeah. Well, the engine is out. Now it's time. Now it's time to take this beast to get it fixed. So they'll take the heads off. They'll check the cylinders. They'll check everything and see what's going on. The other thing that I'm nervous about is that some of the coolant looked a little brown, a little milky. I think that might be because of some of the junk in there in the radiator from before. I didn't rinse it out very well. So I'm hoping that's all it is. So, but they'll check it. They'll make sure there's no cracks in the block anywhere and make sure that it's all good to go. And if the block's bad, then we're going to bore it out and get a 427. And I guess worst case scenario, more displacement, more power. I might cry at night, lose a little sleep about it, but it'll be okay. Well, I've got some great news I figured I would share with you guys before we end this video off here. I got the engine over to the shop. I figured the damage was way worse than it was, so I took it to my engine guy, and he just sent me some pictures and some preliminaries, and I'll throw some pics up here, but it looks like the head gaskets are what failed because of going lean and overheating. So the head gaskets failed. I got coolant in stuff, and that's what made it sound so funky. But also that's what discolored the pistons and made it look like they were damaged. But pistons are coming out. The rotating assembly is being addressed tomorrow, so we'll know for sure what all's going on. But it looks like we're going to get away with decking the block, the head, and then new gaskets, and then we're going to go with stainless steel valves. Put it back together. It looks like the pistons are going to be good. We're going to check the skirts. We're going to check everything, but it's going to get new rings, bearings, standard stuff. But thankfully, I let out of it early. And didn't hurt anything too badly. The cylinder walls look good. They're going to check those, probably put it in a hone. So all in all, not terrible. Things could have been a lot worse, so I'm very thankful. We'll see what the cost comes back as, but hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll get the engine back, we'll get it back in, and then we can start with some of the fixing of the safeties. So add some safety switches for the nitrous on the fuel side of things, and make sure we don't end up with this problem again. So that was me getting in a hurry. You live and learn. I guess I won't push so hard to get it done so quick next time, but it is what it is. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate you guys being here. Stay tuned for some more updates. I've still got some more things to do on this car to get it ready to get back on the road. I gotta do some more troubleshooting on the fuel system. I gotta take the pumps out. Got one pump that's not working, and then the other one probably have a dirty fuel sock on it, but we'll see. So thanks again for watching, guys. Have a good day. See you later.